Hello and welcome to our latest installation of DevOps and testing and all of the things that you have been learning about how all of this works as we work ourselves towards setting up our first automated pipeline. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is what is continuous integration. So in this little set of videos, I've been talking about a lot of DevOps concepts so that you understand these terms and you know the differences. We talked about like continuous delivery versus continuous deployment. Now we're going to talk about continuous integration. And, a lot of this is just so if you're new to these topics, one, you understand it. Two, you can use the terms correctly. And three, you don't look like a ding-dong in a meeting. I always enjoy that part. So let's begin with a definition. Continuous integration, also abbreviated as CI, right? We talk about our CI/DI pipelines, is a development practice where developers frequently merge code changes into a shared repository, often multiple times a day. So every time code is pushed, an automated build runs and tests to validate that the change didn't break anything. So the goal here is to catch our bugs early and improve our code quality and deliver features faster and more reliably. Now, we talk about CI/DI. These are not like really tightly coupled. You can just have continuous integration without building out a whole build automation pipeline. Why would you do that? I don't know. But you can. I guess if you were in a smaller shop and you didn't want all of the automation steps, but you just wanted continuous integration, you can set up continuous integration just to work with yourself. So even if you're not working on a team, you could still have the benefits of the automated build steps. So why is it important? Why do we want to use it? Well, if you've been doing this for a while, then you know software gets complex really fast. And the more developers you have on a project, the more likely it is that one person's changes are going to conflict with another. So continuous integration ensures that changes are checked early, right? We're tested automatically, we're integrated smoothly, and it helps improve feedback, the speed of that feedback, and helps reduce bugs. It also really helps keep the team in sync so that if you do have multiple people working on a project, which is generally the way software is made, you are always integrating those changes that you're checking in, and everyone can always pull down the most recent version of the code and have those changes quickly. So, how does it work? Well, a typical CI workflow looks a little bit like this. A developer commits code to their version control system. So something like GitHub or GitLab or Azure DevOps Server, just depends on what you're using. Then a CI tool, which could be something like Jenkins or GitHub Actions or Azure Pipelines, kicks in and starts the process. It builds the code, does things like fetch dependencies and run tests that you have set up, and then the results are reported. So if everything passes, then we know the code is stable and it's ready to review or deploy whatever your next steps are. If something fails, the developer is immediately notified. This process happens automatically for every commit or pull request. So multiple times a day, we would be running these steps every time the developer commits. So what are some key elements of a good CI process, right? If we want to build a successful continuous integration pipeline, we want to include a few essential components. So one, we're going to need a version control system to store and track our code. I don't know how anybody gets away with writing software these days without a version control system. I mean, I'm old enough to remember before we did this, and it was just sheer havoc. So don't. And then you're going to need an automated build system. This is what's going to compile your code and ensure it still works. And it's going to do that dependency fetching and make sure all of your packages are up to date and present. Then it's going to run tests. So we're going to have our automated tests, those scripted unit tests, integration tests, all the different types of tests that we talked about previously to catch our issues quickly. Then we're going to get our immediate feedback so that we can make those fixes quickly, right? So developers want to know about bugs and we can get right on those. And it's a consistent environment. So results are predictable every time and everybody on the team runs through the same process. So speaking of tools, some of the ones that maybe you have heard about that can help you set up your continuous integration environment would be something like GitHub Actions, which is like a no-brainer if you're already using GitHub. Jenkins, which is a widely used open source server for performing continuous integration. Also, GitLab has a CI/CD process that's fully integrated with GitLab repositories. Circle CI, which is a cloud native platform. And then if you're on the Azure platform, then the Azure pipelines, which is great, especially for .NET and Microsoft-based teams. So all of these really, again, it always depends on our stack and our environment and what it is that we're using, but they all support what it is that we're trying to do, our automated build, test, and deployment services. So what are some best practices, right? Things we want to think about to get the most out of our continuous integration setup. Well, you want to commit small, frequent changes daily or multiple times a day. So that way, every time a change is made, even if it's just something small, it goes through the build and test steps and you know that you didn't accidentally just not think about how it might affect another part of the project. You want to keep your tests fully automated so that they just build all the way through and they go through that process and you get the feedback. You don't want to inject a bunch of manual steps into this or it won't run as fast. The idea is to fail fast, right? Stop the build, alert the team as soon as something breaks. You don't have to wait for the whole integration pipeline to run before you know, hey, that first unit test failed, so we're going to stop here and fix it. I don't need to know about the rest. We do want to keep our pipeline fast, ideally under 10 minutes if possible. If your pipeline starts to chew up more time than that, then your developers are not going to want to commit as often because they know there will be a wait time for the build. And then fix things right away. When we see a broken item in the build, fix it immediately, and that keeps the team productive and the code base healthy, and we can, again, have that confidence that we keep talking about in our product. So some of the benefits might seem obvious at this point, right? What do we gain from setting up continuous integration? Why do I have to sit on my hands for 10 minutes every time I commit? Why should I do that multiple times a day? Well, really, it comes down to faster bug detection. We want to catch problems early before they grow. And if we're doing this often, then we don't have a huge backlog of things to work on. This also creates shorter release cycles. Because we have small, stable changes, they're easier to ship than big, complicated changes. We have higher code quality because every commit is validated, and we get stronger collaboration amongst our teammates because everyone works from the same tested baseline. So probably the most important reason of why we use continuous integration is that it lays that foundation for the full CI/CD pipeline, which then enables our automated delivery or deployment depending on what our product needs. So some common mistakes, things to look out for. Infrequent commits means we have larger, riskier merges that are going to create more conflicts and more stoppages because we're going to introduce more changes and bugs. So commit early and often. We don't want manual steps or build steps tests in our pipeline because they're going to introduce some inconsistency and some delay in the process. We don't want to ignore broken builds. That leads to unstable code. Don't be like, oh, well, I'll fix it later. I know that particular unit test is failing right now, but I'll fix it later. No, we fix it now. And then poor test coverage. We can't catch bugs if we're not looking for them, right? And CI only works if it's consistent, automated, and trusted. So we have to make sure that we've really covered our bases, walked through all of those QA steps, and we are testing everything to make sure that our code is quality. So, in summary, about continuous integration, right? Let's recap. Continuous integration means we frequently merge and automatically test our code. So, merging often, building often, fixing often. It helps detect those issues early and it keeps our project healthy, and it means faster, safer releases and is a step towards full DevOps automation. So, the key to remember, automate everything, test early and often, build fast, fix fast. So, thanks for hanging out with me on this video today and listening. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. Happy to help. We are going to start working on our own CI integration. We're going to be working on our own continuous integration setup here soon. So if you are ready to kind of get your hands dirty with these concepts that we've been talking about, make sure to hang with me, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.